Okay, greetings. I'm Milo. Welcome back to the stream. Last week I played some interesting variants on the Breakout formula. And yeah, there were some games that I uncovered during my research that I wanted to try out. And so we've got 3 games that I'll be doing full playthroughs of today in the Devilish series. So our first one is Devilish, just called Devilish. It's from 1991 on the Game Gear. Oh, I said Master System on Twitter, but it's great. It's Game Gear. Anyway, Sage's Creation is like the publisher of the localized version. The original publisher was Genki in Japan. The developer is supposedly Opera House for this one, but there's a little confusion about subsequent ones in the series with development, so I can't say too much about it. But let's get started and I'll show you what the premise of Devilish is. Press start button. There we go. Lovely little animation there. Normal game, please. Now, in this case, the normal game isn't quite what you'd expect. Let's give ourselves the most balls. We could try normal. I'm sure it'll be fine. I do like Sega games. They always give you these options. Stage 1, Graveyard. So what kind of Arkanoid variant is this in a graveyard? Wow. This is a full-fledged adventure. Hold on a second. I think I have to set up rewinds. This is going to be rough. There's going to be a lot of death and rewinding, I think, in this one. I am using the OpenEmu system, which I find is very helpful. Especially good for DS games, which we'll see later on in the stream. Okay, so basically, if you know something like Pinball Quest on the NES, this is similar, but for Breakout style variant instead of for Pinball. So it's adding a like adventure, exploration, fantasy, combat, all sorts of these elements to this basic gameplay style. Okay, so here's the gimmick of basically the whole series of Devilish. You have 2 paddles and you can move one of them freely, which means you can put one up right up against the ball. Really speeds up that gameplay, because I find when I play Brick Breaker games, a lot of it is waiting for your ball to return to your paddle and yeah, trying to aim it properly, which is always a hassle. But not only do we have the ability to move right up underneath it to speed it up, but aiming is supplemented by these kinds of options. We can split our bottom paddle, we can angle the top one so that we can have a lot more control over where the ball goes, and that goes both ways. And we'll see them add on to those options, gameplay options, as the series continues. But on this original Game Gear version, it's a little bit simpler than what it'll end up with, but we can see that as it goes. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I probably should have read a manual, so I was a little pressed for time around this stream. So maybe when I get a chance I'll load up Sega Retro and do a bit of live... Oh my gosh! The flashing is terrible. Alright, definitely apologize about that. Warning for flashing. I don't know when it's going to happen, but that power-up obviously triggered it in this case. Yeah, that's a big photosensitivity issue, so I apologize. So yeah, anything that adds this kind of fun setting and these kind of continual progression mechanics onto that basic gameplay structure, that's a big winner for me. And I mentioned Pinball Quest. There's a lot of adventure pinball style things that I've enjoyed in the past as well. And yeah, this one is no different. It fits very much in that vein. I think I just like having it horizontal most of the time. Well, we've destroyed the ghoul there. A mini boss perhaps. But yeah, I've got zombies and ghoulies and all sorts of things. It's cool. Alright. I wonder if there's any enemies that are gonna like attack my paddles. They haven't been in any danger so far. Whoa, horizontal progression, that's great. What a cool idea. I've really only seen the beginning stages of these games so far, but yeah, this is great. Alright, so we need to keep it out of these mouths. We also have a timer, which almost ticked all the way down in my last run, by the way. So I do have to be aware of that. And now I'm wondering what exactly the difficulty setting changes. If it's time, that is something that I might need to consider. Okay, looks like a boss. Whoa! Now that's devilish. Okay, looks like we need to impact the upper part of this guy's body to damage him. But what a cool thing. Like, this sprite is gigantic to have on a Game Gear. That's impressive. Whoops. I'm not sure if I'm limited in my number of lives. Seems like time is the main thing. There we go. Beautiful. Really wedged it up there. That was very satisfying. I wonder if that's the guy from the cover artwork. You can see on the left here, that's the Game Gear cover for the game. Although the Mega Drive installment, which was the sequel to this, has a very similar cover in its North American release. What I've got on the right is actually the Japanese box art for the Mega Drive version, but I'll talk more about that later. Oh, yes. This is always the best power-up in Brick Breaker games. The one that lets you just ram through lines of blocks in a row. Oops. I'm going to rewind so that I keep that power a bit longer, actually. Oh, it's gone anyway. It's okay. Things are actually getting a little tight with the timer up there. I thought I would be all over once the boss went down, but all that time spent with those lizard heads, I think, has come in and bit me, so to speak. That's the end right there! Just made it. I'm gonna save my state, and I'm actually gonna go back just to see what happens when you run out of time. I really lucked out into getting to that exhaust port. Time over. And we go back to the start of the stage. That's pretty rough. Alright, loading my state. We made it. A long play of these games doesn't take too long, so I think I should be able to play all three of them today. Especially if I'm using my cheaty emulator settings. Oh, the time is just getting tighter on these stages. But it's easy to get through quicker with this whole moving paddle thing. I've missed a power up back there, but I'm going to prioritize time here. Oh. Okay. Yeah, looking good. Like, the ability to move the paddle just gives you so much more control than any normal Breakout game or the pinball games that are similar to this. Oh. What's going on there? Is it the water stream that's moving the ball there? I think so. I'm gonna try this. Keep it over here. Come on. There we go. Stay over there, please. Okay, I got the yellow, or did I? I thought I got it, but there wasn't any ding or anything. I don't know. Okay. Not sure what that was supposed to do. Okay. Alright, cool. "40 seconds. There we go. That speeds it up a lot. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. 30 seconds left. Walk in the park. So this one did get a localized release, which is why we saw that publisher name at the start. The differences in localization are going to become more pronounced when there's more happening within the game. And the subsequent installments also have different names in different regions, but I think it was Devilish all the way around the world with this one. And no moral panic about Satanism, apparently. Maybe there was, I don't know. Oh. What? What is this, roulette? What's going on? Did I win? I guess I hit the right one 3 times? Okay, whatever. I don't know what's going on there. But I did it. I think the little cross blocks reduce the size of your paddles temporarily. Okay, we've got a horizontal boss now. The Dragon Summoner, I guess. Oh, now he's over here. Kind of looks like this person's naked under their robe, or cloak. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. They just like earth tones, at least for their undergarments. And then the flashy cloak. Can't blame them. A servant of evil has never looked this fashionable. Yeah, I really need to know more about the plot here. When I'm done with this guy, let's see what we can find out. Kick ball here. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Just stay like that. That's great. Perfect. Okay. Oh. Okay. Speed Mark 3. Gosh. Do you think that ball's moving at Mark 3? How big are we? Devilish. So usually we can rely on Sega Retro for manual scans. They're very good like that. Japan, US, and EU. So Sage's Creation was the US publisher, but in Europe it was published by Hot B. I think I've heard of Hot B. This also gives Genki as the developer, so like I said, there's a bit of confusion. According to text in the Japanese ROM, the game was the first game Genki developed. Okay, well if Sega Retro is going into that kind of detail, then yeah, I gotta trust them. They got the know-how. So the yellow pickup adds 20 seconds to the play timer, or 10. Purple one gives you a 1-up. I'm looking at this on my phone and the formatting of these tables is completely messed up. So having got through the old castle, there's only 4 more stages till the end of the game. But here's a manual. Let's have a quick look. Okay. Wow, there's a lot of languages in this one. Enter a strange new dimension. Okay, heading. For a fiendishly good time. Enter a strange new dimension, full of worlds of ice and fire, of castles and graveyards, caves and landscapes too fantastic to comprehend. Time is both your ally and your enemy. Your weapon is the power orb, an indestructible ball of light that can burst through stone and mow through the legions of monsters who stand between you and your goal. You will go through 8 stages, 8 tests of your skill and courage before you're fit to challenge Gamma, evil ruler of the realm. Gamma is holding something very precious, which he will release when you destroy him, if you can. But remember, only you can control the power orb as it cracks through stone and ricochets madly around you. And if you let it get behind you, all is lost. So psych yourself up, get a firm grip on the control, and get ready for a time that could only be called Devilish. Sweet. There's a story section on Sega Retro as well, which I think it might be taken from the Japanese version, possibly. A prince and princess were happily married to each other until a jealous demon named Gamma cast a spell and turned them into a pair of stone paddles. Gamma then filled the kingdom with rocks from the sky and devils. Suddenly a blue sphere fell from the sky, and the prince and princess could use it in order to defeat the demons that now rule over the kingdom. So that's a little bit more in-universe plot relevance. This also brings up a really interesting point. The sequel has a cover art that we can see on the right there, which depicts the prince and princess transformed into paddles. So I guess the plot stays similar on the follow-up. Yeah, if you look at the cover art there, you can see that there's stone humanoid figures built into the paddles, and I guess this means that these are the transformed prince and princess who we are controlling. So yeah, it's a buddy duo game. Who knew? With a hero and a heroine working together to defeat the forces of Gamma. So there you go. And Bad Omen is the Japanese name of the sequel. Okay. That's good. That gave me a lot more context, and I feel better about the game now. So let's get back into playing stage. What was this for? Whatever. Okay, we're gonna go horizontally. Now, which one's the prince and which is the princess? The colors don't match up what's on the Mega Drive's artwork there. Oh, that was a short one. Bonus stage, I guess. I like the big eyeballs. That's very Alien Crush, or Jackie Crush, or Devil's Crush even. Probably most pertinently. That might be what they were going for, although I wonder which came first. Because that would have started on the Mega Drive. I didn't look it up. But yeah, the whole adding these fantasy elements to something, in that case Pinball, it's not the full adventure mode here like what we have in Pinball Quest in this game. But I think Jackie Crush and Compile's other Crush Pinball games is probably an influence on the tone and aesthetics that they've got going on here. I thought it might miss that, but it didn't quite make it. Okay, yep, cool. Just angled that one right. Perfect. That purple's going to give me a 1-up. Yeah, my paddle got shrunk. Too bad. Must be pretty horrific for the prince and princess, who were just shrunken in size in their stone forms. Oh, nuts. It's okay. We actually got eaten a lot of times on a previous stage and still made it, so I think, let's try and keep it to a minimum though, all the same. I just love this like changing layout and stuff. It's really cool. It's an interesting, mechanical thing that ties it. Oh, the flashing, I'm sorry. Oof. Ties into what you can do as a player with the rotation thing. Okay. Getting close, possibly. Come on. No! Really? Okay, cool. Tell me we're close. We're not close. Alright, I'm just gonna... Let me see. What was my last time loss? It was around here. We'll just rewind a bit. Try and do that one a little bit better. Oops. In fact, I'll try and miss that. Ugh, never mind. I'm so sorry about this. Terrible. Okay, 20 seconds. Let's go. We can't be that far from the end. Okay. This is the shorter one, so it's probably better to take the left one, but maybe if I make good use of the paddle up here, which I haven't been doing so far. Ah! Alright, rewind. Gibbon said, these seem really neat, and yeah, I think it's a really cool idea. Ah, come on. No! This sucks. I haven't been making good use of my time this stage, I think. But it's very tight too. Maybe that was the time power-up that I missed. Let's take that death and just start this one over. Stage 5 Prairie. Given said, seems kind of arbitrary controlling where the ball goes. Well, yeah. You do have some control, like I'm saying, more than your usual Breakout style game. But also, if the game is being too demanding about what you have to do to proceed, then it can feel stifling. You have all the usual Breakout style angling mechanics that you often get. See, there's a timer power up over there, but I sped so quickly through this section that I think I'm good. See how much time we have left here. But, well, we just cracked into the right one, that's fine. I was going to try and go for the left one, but never mind. Nope. Come on. Yeah, I knew this would be near the end. Oh. Never mind. Out of my way, zombies. See, that went way better. That's what you can do. Whoa! Why does the game look so washed out on my stream? I've just had a look at what's happening over... What the heck? Like I've got my own stream up in a window. And it's so, like, pale. What the heck? Maybe it's something to do with OBS. Let me check something. I don't know what I can do about that. Filters? This looks right on this preview window. Why does it look so washed out? Even the side art looks fine, I think. That's very strange. Like, the colors should be a lot more vibrant. Maybe it's my iPad. I don't know. No, it just looks wrong. It looks pale. I can add LCD ghosting. That would be amazing. Not shader. The shader option in the emulator is just for scaling. That's odd. Oh well. We'll crack on, I guess. I have no answers for this right now. Maybe I'll try and do some research later. Definitely want that red power up. Oh, are you kidding me? Okay, cool. No. Oh, I lost some potential there. Oh. So later games in the series do let you angle the paddle more, which would give you a bit more control. That's cool. Okay. Timer pickup, that's just what we need. Oh, the mouths again. My arch enemy. Where do we have to go? Sorry, what? Excuse me? Ugh. No! It's just going out at an arbitrary angle. Trying to keep it... Okay. This is a chance. Yes, alright, cool. Okay. The rampant cheating wins again. Out of my way. Breadstick. Ugh, why does it look so terrible? It's so washed out. I have no explanation for that. Because it even looks fine on the preview window in OBS. Well, it actually looks a little bit paler, but not as pale as it does in the actual stream. It's very strange. It is a little bit paler. Maybe it's something to do with the display capture. Does the screen brightness change it? It shouldn't. I don't see why it would. Yeah, I wonder if wind capture has gotten any better on the Mac version of OBS. It was always not great. Let's try it. Window capture. This one. Go. Yeah. Looks about the same, maybe a little bit better, but it's also got the bar at the top, you see. The display capture that I do allows me to crop that bar out, but if you window capture, you can't. When you're running on a PC, that's not a problem because it automatically crops out the status bar. But on Mac, it's a little bit dumber. Mac OBS is just less powerful in general. It can't even do chat docs. I have to get a separate window up. Oh gosh, the flashing. I'm so sorry. Ugh. Penguins! Penguins! I like the way British people pronounce penguins. If you've ever seen those clips online of Benedict Cumberbatch narrating a penguin documentary, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I recently heard a podcast where I experienced a similar thing with somebody else, so it's not just him. Ah. Okay. Heads up, there may be a bit of flashing. Yep, there it is. "10 seconds. It's not much, but it helps. So you hit button 1 to toggle through all the different configurations of the paddle, Second paddle. Button 1, button 2 doesn't seem to do anything. Are these penguins really our enemies? Surely penguins are good and kind. But no, these are devil penguins. Come on. Is it just my iPad? Gibbon, if you're there, like, what do you think of the colors of this game? I think you said something about Pucci Carrot last week, that it had sort of a pastel coloration. But I think part of that is this sort of soft color thing that my setup is apparently doing to the stream. Like, I feel like what I'm seeing on my own screen is a lot more vibrant than what's coming through on the stream footage. And I don't know why that is. Oh, come on. Alright, let's do it this way. Keep it in there. So now we have a 3-path level. That's interesting. Oh! Come on. No! And locked in. Alright. Very cool. Oh no, a shaft of crystal. Ah, go away, you jerks. Please. Are you kidding me? Oh, right. Oh, the flashing. Oh my gosh. It's really quite bad in this game. I wonder if there's a ROM hack that can reduce it. I didn't look for ROM hacks for this one. Given says she's having some trouble hearing things because of a very loud air conditioning unit near her. That's too bad. I'm sorry about that. And I know you like the warmth, so yeah. It's too bad that you have to run that. Ah. Okay. Good. Yes, there we go. No! There we go. That's what I wanted. But yeah, like, what do you think of the colors, Gibbon, basically? Do you think they look right? Okay. Gonna have to experiment a bit after this stream's over, I think. These mouths are the worst. It's my least favorite obstacle in this game. Please. Okay, cool. Must be getting close now. Boss fight time with 40 seconds. Bit under. Oh no, the big spider. Hit the eyeball, of course. Every spider's weakness is the giant eye on their back. Especially if you've been playing Zelda. Okay, well, I thought those were like architectural columns, but they're cannons. Pretty interesting. Oh yeah, I can move the paddle. Should be doing that. Move this up here and then keep it up here. Well, that's not fair. I can't even hit the eye if it's there. Cutting it fine. Oh, that's the limit, actually. I can't move my paddle up any further than this. Oh, time over. Alright, can I beat this in 40 seconds? Given says she doesn't know how they're supposed to look. They sure look like an early Sega game at the very least. Well, yeah, okay. That's a good point. Thanks for the feedback. This is rough. I didn't do too well on this stage, so it's given me very little time for the boss, and it's tricky hitting the weak point on this one. Nah. Alright, let's try the stage again. Try and get through it faster. We got 3.5 minutes. Must be approaching the end of the game too. Come on. Yeah, this one was fine. I think the fastest is probably the middle. Too bad those bonuses don't really help you too much in the time stakes. Keep an eye out for yellow pickups too. Nah, terrible. I will be rewinding. The timing is just really tight this whole game. Please, please. Alright, forget it. That is annoying. Okay. I don't really like the split version. Okay. Okay, I'm happy with this. Let's go. I don't want to try to get through these on the first try. Come on. Second try, good enough. Okay, stay over here. No. Oh, yes, that was really good. So we're only a minute down. Oh god, the flashing is horrible. Come on. What the heck is going on with this ball? The physics seem really screwy in this room. Come on. Please, please. I really wish I had that angled paddle right now. Alright. The yellow pickup. Shall we go for it? I feel like just getting it is risky. Potential to lose time just going over there with that face getting in the way. Oh, that was almost perfect. Whoops. Yep, there we go. Look at that. Oh. Sorry. Let's take that one again. Oh yeah, this is so much better. Oh, I even went straight past the first face. Face of evil. One of the greatest in Korodai, I'm sure. Okay, 115, that's so much better. Okay. Well, one hit. Oh, please. It just moves really quickly, erratically. Okay, come on. This boss is really tough. I would say unfair. Especially with these time limits. Jeez. Really should have put it on easy mode. Well, lesson learned for the sequel. The sequel is going directly onto easy mode and staying there. Hopefully it doesn't lock me out of any content. I hate when games do that. Come on now. Can I... Oh! Huh. Alright, I figured out what button 2 does. Speed. Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 3. So you can actually manually adjust the speed of the ball. This is news to me. Of course, I can't manually adjust the angle of the ball. I had literally no control over it up there. So yeah, Mach 3 is going to probably help a bit in this boss fight, I think. Alright, if it's angled on the side, I can get it all the way to the top. That will help, actually. Oops. Then I can recover from that scenario. And I can also keep the ball near the weak spot better. Hopefully. See, if this was like a shooting game, I'd be able to damage the cannons and maybe knock them off, make it easier to get to the weak point. Come on. I just don't believe this boss. Is this possible? Did anybody ever complete this? Did the designers play this? Did the testers give any feedback? Not possible, please fix. It's the timer that really gets me. I just hate that mechanic. Like, I did this really well this level, I feel, and 1 minute 15 is probably the best I'm gonna do. I forgot about speed up. So the arrows only appear as you press the 2 button. The speed arrows, but I have 11 one-ups. I'm not going to run out of those. It's definitely the time that's the problem. What was I thinking? I should have done easy from the start. Foolish. My arrogant ambition. Picking normal to play a game normally the way it was intended. To get a feel for it. What was I thinking? Oh my gosh. The ball doesn't even seem that much faster on triple speed compared to normal speed. Oh golly gosh. How many more stages are there? I'm going to consult that manual again. See what it says about the stages in the game. It doesn't say, the manual doesn't say what the difficulty setting does. Points will give you a 1-up. Time trials let you play up to stage 6 freely. Oh. I'm in offense formation, but the split paddles is defensive formation. And then there's L and reverse L. There's a listing of the different beasties in the game. On screen now we can see the Conjurer, no? The Skeletal Warrior. These sword-brandishing monsters haunt the underground passages and take 2 hits to destroy. Here's what it says about the penguin. Hit this fellow 3 times and make him disappear. Doesn't say anything about how evil it is. That spider isn't even listed on the boss listings, so it doesn't count as a boss. And this is the final stage, by the way. Oh, maybe the spider is Gamma. Hold on a sec. This is the master of the evil realm you have entered. Do you have the courage to face him and his devilish devices? Yeah, the spider might be Gamma, because this is the last stage. Well... just the difficulty of this boss is enough that what I'm going to do now is what I did during my stream of what's it called? Load Runner. Not Load Runner. Crazy Climber. Hyper Crazy Climber. And I'm going to look up a video. Devilish long play, because I'm literally at the final boss and I can't beat it. Oh, by the way, when you search for Devilish, you always get results for Devil May Cry, and you're like, please, no, that is really not what I was looking for. Okay, so full screen. No, not full screen. What can I do? I'll go here, then I'll capture. Sorry. Here we go. Here's what it looks like. Something like this. There's the spider. It's quite loud coming through. Turn it down. They somehow managed to do this boss very well and beat it without too much problem. The legs came off, so I didn't even get to phase 2. Okay, so it seems like they found an exploit to get through the boss, because even with that, they only had 25 seconds left. Playing this normally just seems out of control. Completely off the chain. Alright, so there's another mini stage with 18 seconds to go. So you still had to do that after beating the boss, get through another little section. I think that's the actual end. There is an ending, which I'll show you right now. Okay, so the bottom one was the prince. The top one was the princess. Good to know. Equal partners. In fact, the princess is much more useful in this case, because you can move her around and angle her. Congratulations. Okay, this is a pretty typical low-key ending. Okay. That's it? No staff credits? Just Finn. So thank you to World of Long Plays, a resource that I often turn to in figuring out how long a game is going to take. So yeah, there you go. Let's move on. The next game today is the sequel, of course. Actually, before I load up the sequel, I want to do a real quick search of what could be happening with my colors. So OBS, color, pale, might just be on the Mac version. How to fix Ob Studio problems with pale colors or washed out It's a video. It's a YouTube video. I never like watching tutorials in video form. Just like, give me some text, tell me what the problem is and how to fix it. Color correction. Okay. So this tutorial is about using the color correction filters to try and get it back to what it should be. So let's try it. Here's what I'm going to do. Capture my window. Like so. This is a Mega Drive game now. And then I'll try and apply some filters and stuff and see what I can do. Color correction. Gamma, contrast, brightness, saturation. Let's just try turning the saturation up to about 3. Hue shift, opacity. How many of these should I do? What are their recommendations? Higher contrast is the main thing that they changed in the tutorial. Okay, so maybe not so high, but more contrast. Color multiply. Well, let's see what that did first of all. So I've applied a color correction. Let's see what it looks like now. I don't know. I think it looks brighter. Let's do a quick comparison. Filter. Yeah, we definitely need something. I don't feel good about having it be too different from the natural look of it, but I think the default of whatever OBS is doing makes it unnatural. So I gotta crank something. I gotta do something. All right. Let's go with that. All right. Devilish, the next possession, also known as Bad Omen in Japan. I don't know why. There was a prince and a princess living happily in a kingdom. It's so generic. They don't even have names. None of them have names, not even the kingdom. But there was a jealous devil from the dark world named... Oh, that's Gamma. That's the Greek letter Gamma. Okay, that's good to know. Cool, cool, cool. So, glad we got this plotting game now. Gamma turned the prince and princess into 2 stone paddles. Oh yeah, there's already a bit of like flickering on this. That's an intentional effect, but yes, warning about the flashing. There's clearly going to be more in this game, I'm sure. Suddenly, a mysterious blue sphere fell from the sky. Divine intervention, I guess. And we have the skull zipper. That's a cool effect. Was that supposed to be a voice clip saying Devilish? It sounded a bit odd. I think when I turned it down, it's a bit too quiet now, so volume adjusted back up. Let's see how that goes. And yeah, here we go. Let's get started on Devilish 2. Devilish, the next possession. Title screen is almost identical to the Game Gear predecessor. But first of all, here's what we're going to do. Check out those difficulty options. Easy pleasy, thank you. Back to stock 4. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Let's get started with the sequel. See what they've done with it. Whoa, 2 players. How does that work? That would be really cool, actually. I'd like to try that someday. Okay, Graveyard. Main event Demon coming up. preview of the boss. But yeah, it seems similar in theme to start with, but look at these effects. There's little explosions and little debris going everywhere. That's really cool. Looks like we have to defeat the boss in order, the bat, in order to move on. Oh no, we just needed to break that. So let's try some of our options here. We can cycle between two different sideways ones and the flat. As before, I can adjust the speed, which is constantly represented in the HUD now. That's nice. I do like the HUD. Some cool stuff going on there. Just shuffling it off to the side. That works. So, okay. So basically your A and C buttons do opposite things. So I can press A to move to the left, press C to move back to the right. And yeah, we don't actually have the split option here. So there's actually less configuration options for the paddles in the Mega Drive sequel. But I tell you what, they did improve. This music, it's rad. This is going hard. Soundtrack here. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, I'm sure that other tweaks to the engine and stuff are going to make up for that. In fact, I never used the defensive formation anyway. I don't mind losing it. It just means that there's fewer things to cycle through. Oh my gosh. The flashing is maybe even worse in this version. I'm so sorry. But yeah, we like I said, we have less formations to cycle through on the way to the ones that I'm going to use more often, which is the sideways paddles. And the boss looks very similar again. So yeah, it's really a kind of retake on the same kind of formula, but only the head is vulnerable here. Got a classic arm made of orbs thing going on here. Oops. I shouldn't mind too much about losing balls. Oh no, the torso is vulnerable too. Oh. It's like the hand grabbed the ball on the way through and just dunked it into the end zone. The death zone. Some nice pallet cycling on the boss to show damage. Excuse me. Okay. Having a bit of a spider problem there. I never expected Gamma, the big boss, the big bad of the game, to be a spider with cannons mounted on it. It's like Donkey Kong 64 stuff. Oh, finally. What was the name of the armadillo in DK64 that had the big cannons? The dragon was Dogadon. The pufferfish I don't think had a name, so DK Vine named it. I think it was Army Hammer. No. Isn't that guy a cannibal or something? Shouldn't throw around such accusations. Armadillo, of course. Because the armadillo enemies in DKC were just called Army. So yeah, they just used a similar pun. Of course it was Armadillo. Thanks, Gibbon. Oh, okay. Gibbon's correcting me. DK Vine did not come up with Puff Toss. Puff Toss is the name of the pufferfish boss that Lanky fights in Gloomy Galleon. Oh, the enemy is the big clock in the clock tower stage. That's nice. Cool. Well, this is going well. I think they made some pretty good improvements, but kept a lot of the base game similar here for the Mega Drive. Looks like the crosses, instead of making a paddle smaller, it makes the top paddle the ever useful princess, as we learned. Unable to, or it like removes its collision. Oh, that's terrible. I'm not going to go through that gear again if I can help it. In fact, let's just hold the paddle right here. Are you kidding me? What's going on here? Okay. Yeah, that's a really harsh penalty, going back through that gear if you miss. Whoa! Your ball doesn't just go red, it turns into a friggin' dragon. That's great. Incredible. Alright. What were the other bosses in DK64? King Cutout, the cardboard standee of K. Rool. There were 2 refights. You actually fight Dogadon and Armadillo twice. There's like the spider that you fight as tiny. That's more of a mini boss. It's not like the stage boss the same way that the other ones that you have to get through the Trough and Scoff doors. Oh, of course. What's the big Jack-in-the-Box guy called? The one that uses the Donald Duck sound effects. Mad Jack, I think. I think he's just called Mad Jack. Okay. Damn, DK64 is a cool game. Maybe when I eventually stop streaming, that'll be the last thing I'll do. I'll do Courtney's thing, 100%ing it in one sitting. Or like H-Bomber guy. Except I don't have a capture card for my 64. And I would assume that's a game that doesn't emulate well. Because nothing on the 64 does. Oh, the big faces are back. Oh no. My least favorite. Okay. This is a really rough room, actually. Between the faces and this assortment of blocks and all these wizrobes around. There's a lot that's going to just rebound you directly back into a face. And the blocks are respawning. I think the wizrobes are bringing them back, actually. Jerks. Come on. Alright, now that we've cleared that space. Oh, thank goodness. Yes. Take me home. Ah, the evil clock. We found it. Get into holes. Okay, so yeah, again, it's the same concept from the Master System. I mean Game Gear, it was Game Gear. Only this time they've framed it with a clock theme. I still don't know which holes I need to get in and when, but... I don't know. Is it when it lines up or something? When the hour hand's pointing to it, you can go in, and you need to do that 3 times? Something like that. Okay. Well, there we go. I did it. I've kept it on Mark III for the whole time I've been playing this so far, because I reckon it's best to go as fast as you can as often, but there might be some like precision times when you might want to vary the speed, possibly. I don't know if it would have helped in that wizrobe face room, maybe. Oh, nasty. I don't see how, I don't know. I don't think changing the speed of the ball is that interesting a variable for you to have control over. On top of that, it's not a huge difference in speed, so yeah, anyway. Kevin says, speaking of wizrobes, why hasn't there been a Zelda pinball adventure like Mario and Metroid got? That's a great question. Yeah, you could place a Goron. You could place the Goron Link. By which I mean the Goron named Link, Darunia's child from Ocarina of Time, not the Goron Link transformation from Majora's Mask, but either could work. Yeah. When I said before that I'd played adventure pinball games before, Mario Pinball Land, or Super Mario Ball, as it was called in PAL regions, which I think is a much stupider name, although both are pretty stupid. That's what I was thinking of, because that game is pretty cool. It's basically Mario 64, but a pinball game. Like, these worlds that you're in, you travel between different screens, fulfilling objectives and getting stars. I think it's a really cool idea. maybe not the best execution, but I thought it was pretty cool when I played it. And just that whole pinball adventure idea that I talked about with Pinball Quest, it's one of the few games to take on that concept. So I got to give it props for that. There's another one recently, an indie game called Beneath the Well, which I've been meaning to try as well. Which takes things in an interesting direction, like dungeon crawling and stuff. Or it seems to, from what I remember of the trailer. And I was like, ooh, that looks good, I'm getting that. And then sitting in my backlog for ages. You know how it is. What it is, okay. But yeah, like a Zelda version with dungeons and stuff, that's got potential, that does. Like, Metroid's an obvious one because of Morph Ball and stuff. And they did it. But, of course, Metroid Prime Pinball was, what the heck? Fine. Metroid Prime Pinball was interesting and did a lot of fun things playing with pinball mechanics. But it was, I would call it more along the spectrum towards the simulator rather than this like all-out wacky adventure stuff with pinball mechanics like what you would get in Mario Pinball Land or something like Yoku's Island Express, which is an absolutely fantastic game. Using pinball mechanics in a big adventure context and exploration and collecting and stuff. And like, Metroid's an exploration game most of the time, but the pinball version was not like that at all. I don't begrudge them what they did, because it's really cool. But I would have liked to have them go more outside the box with it. Come on, finally. Hope I didn't lose too much time there. Time hasn't been as much of an issue in this Mega Drive version, which is good. I appreciate that. Come on. Oh! This is tough, like thinking sideways, but also you do have to protect the ball from going out the bottom. It's an interesting twist. Alright, this is actually maybe a quicker way through this section if we get through the face instead of breaking those blocks. And yeah, the water does have a big effect on the momentum, on the trajectory of the ball. It keeps redirecting it downwards. Come on. Yeah, that's it. That's it! Perfect. That was beautiful. Giving us lots of time for this boss. What was it, a big tree guy? Yeah, hello. Wispy Woods. Whoa, okay. Come on. The tree has friends. We've seen these ones on the stage already. Come on. Ball. Oh! Poor thing. Such a face it made. Come on. Ugh. Let's just stick in this corner here. Well, I got a couple of hits in. This might be the first boss where time is a real factor. I can't wait to get to the DS version. I think that does a lot more interesting things with the format, the premise. We'll see that in a second. I figured there'd be enough time to do all three in the series. See how it evolved over time. But I am just most interested in the DS version that will be coming up. Yes, that's the ideal. That's what you want to see. Yeah, so what would you want in a Zelda pinball game, Gibbon? Oh gosh. You know, I just had another look at the stream coming through, and I think I went too far in the saturation, so let's turn it down a bit. And contrast. So I've boosted them a little bit now. Should look better, I hope. Gosh, I wasn't looking closely enough at it before, I guess, but yeah, it was pretty intense. Way too much color. Yeah, that looks much better. It still actually looks more vibrant than the current window I have. Yeah, all right. In the interests of authenticity, I don't want to go too wacky with it. How does that look? I messed with it because it was too pale before, but then I realized that when I turned it up, I turned it up way too high. So it was way too colorful, more than it should have been. But now I'm much more happy with it being authentic to what I'm actually playing. So yeah, sorry about that. Don't need to mess with it anymore. It's all good now. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so what do you want in a Zelda pinball? I think the sort of Mario Pinball Land had, you know, all these interconnected screens. I think that could work as a Zelda overworld. And then you would have dungeons, so you get into them and then it's a little bit more straightforward in structure. Maybe it could even be more traditional pinball table style, or like a few stacked tables the way that Kirby's Pinball Land or something like that does it, where you have like four screens stacked up and each one of them has flippers. And that's your dungeon, like a little mini thing like that, and there's challenges you have to do and ramps and stuff, and that would feel a bit more traditional, but you could still put like enemies in there and objectives and stuff. Ooh, Gibbon has some ideas. She says, I think a hybrid pinball/normal adventure would be ideal. Like Sonic Pinball still has Sonic capable of moving about and platforming. Okay, we don't want to go over to the left there. Capable of platforming. It's just that like 90% of the levels use the series pinball mechanics. So for Zelda, I think something where Link can walk around but approaches puzzles and battles from a pinball perspective. That's a really interesting idea. She says, I'm specifically thinking about how Creature in the Well, which is the game I was talking about before but forgot the name of. Creature in the Well, yes. She says, how that one handled the gameplay with your sword wielder running around batting pinballs around. So yeah, the way that works is really interesting. You're playing as like a robot with a sword, and rather than flippers, your sword acts as a flipper the way you swing it. So you have a ball that you then have to hit into targets, but you're moving your character, you're also like controlling the sword as a flipper. It's interesting and a very sort of different take on pinball style mechanics. yeah, just really rethinking things and doing interesting stuff with those sort of mechanics. I like that idea a lot. So she says, using that basic combat mechanic to interact with the worlds and dungeons is what she's got in mind for a Zelda pinball thing. Yeah, sounds cool to me. Just trying to grab this. Okay, that didn't work out. But I can do this. Alright, now we got dragon. Let's go. Ah! Well, that was a waste of the dragon. No. Yes. Oh, a cannon. What's this gonna do? Shortcut. Lovely. Oh. Okay, it changes, so we're gonna try for red. What happened? Did I not get the red? I did, this time. That was weird. Anyway. A changing power up, that's a cool idea. And here we are. Boss of the stage. Destroy blocks. Will do. I'll try. Oh. Okay. You're gonna give me free dragon? I'll take it. Sort of an indirect boss fight, yeah. Oh, okay. I can force power-ups out of it if I hit the statue. This is cool. I like this one. This is so much better than the spider with cannons as a boss. Okay, you can come down now. Oh no, it keeps rebounding back up. Please, okay. Ugh. Yeah. Oh, that was so close. How did I miss that last one? Okay, maybe Mach 1. Alright, cool. Done. So when your idea, yeah, in your idea, Link is the paddle, basically. So what is the ball? It needs to be something that ties in. Maybe Link is the paddle and Zelda is the ball. She's just curled up. I'm imagining like Tetra. Toon-style characters would be a bit more natural curling up like that. Yeah, let's go. Alright, so it's underwater stage. We're getting electrified by jellies, it looks like. Oh no. Please, not my power ball. This time I'm going to the right. Gibbon says, that's a good question. Maybe the games help a character. Okay, yeah, like Navi getting bumped around like a little ball. Or Midna. Something like that, anyway. Maybe it could be Tingle. He gets like shot out of cannons and stuff, right? No, he doesn't. Who am I thinking of getting shot out of cannons? I guess Link does. In Twilight Princess. Oh, that's devastating. If my princess paddle is invisible right now, then I can't knock my ball over that way. Come on. Stupid water currents. This probably would have looked better on the real Mega Drive, by the way. This whole dithering thing, the effect would have been much more... it would have been much better at conveying transparency on a CRT with the blur and stuff. So yeah, this is going to look a bit weird on this, these LCDs that we're watching on. But even all the emulator filters would not be able to replicate the real effect. So I'm not going to turn them on. You hear about things like the waterfall textures in Sonic when you look at them on the right screen technology. It makes a shimmer and it actually forms a rainbow, which you really don't get on LCD screens. Oh, finally. Okay. This one's tough. Thank you for the shortcut. What's this? See, it's really hard to make out what anything is. There's this layer of water texture in front of everything else. This might be an octopus or something. Well, it's dead now. It's making clouds of ink, so that's making me think octopus. Which is also hiding the ball from my view. There we go. Flashing warning. This time it's actually a lot of help, but I saw it coming. Okay, let's go. Sorry about that. Stupid water physics, they're so weird. Okay, let's go up here. No, please. Yes. No. Yes. Okay. So, Gibbon, I've almost finished Toe Jam and L3. I've just got to the final boss when I had to go. And it's been really interesting and strange. Like, I have so many presents that I just haven't needed to use. But then there's these... Some enemies are just incredibly annoying. Like the baby Medusas that hide all your presents. The nerd drones that automatically use them or shuffle them. I think, yeah, some drones activate a random present. Some of them have a randomizer effect that shuffles what your present types are, and I've lost a ton of useful ones that way. It's just a very strange game, but it's interesting. Like these little self-contained 3D platformer levels. There's so much combat though, and the combat systems aren't great. Like, Funk Fu is so slow and limited in range. So I've been using a lot of Funkify notes, but then I run out. But I found an exploit, well I didn't find it, but I read about an exploit to get infinite money. So then whenever you find some of the gospel singers that will sell you more Funkify notes, you can just stock up there. And what you do is this. It's best to do it in the Snow World Hub, where there is both a salesperson and a sushi seller. But when you're Earl, you get double sushi, so you can spend $3 to get 2 sushis, and then sell the 2 sushis to the shopkeeper for 2 each. So normally you'd be losing money on that transaction, but if you pick Big Earl, then you can just repeatedly do this transaction to get tons and tons of the thing that you then sell, and you make $1 profit on each one. And that's how you get infinite money in ToeJam and L3 Mission to Earth on the original Xbox. I recommend doing it because the game is annoying and hard in some ways when you're trying to make progress. And yeah, that boss was just a boss, wasn't it? That was fine. No worries. I was glad that the water effect filtered away, but now it's back, unfortunately. Water's not great in ToeJam and L3. You go so slowly, and then a few times I've just drowned because I wasn't watching the air meter. If you have an inner tube item, you can use it, but this is the thing about ToeJam and L3. Like, you have presents that are incredibly useful, even necessary to get through certain parts of the game, and you can just run out of them, and then you don't have any, and then what do? You just have to struggle to get by, and then maybe try and find where you can get some more, but like, they're limited. There's a finite number of things in the overall game. So what happens if you want to get to one of the secret levels but you run out of Icarus wings? Like, you kind of SOL at that point. You can go back and replay levels, but that doesn't respawn the presents that were there. It's very strange. It's just like, in terms of the design and mechanics, it almost feels like outsider art at times, with how unconventional it is. But it also is a competently made game. But you got to also talk about the aesthetics. It's really interesting. Very, inspired by Black American culture. And that's heavily part of the game's identity, and that's nice to see in a mainstream video game. So yeah, I really like that part of it. What I don't like is the new characterization of ToeJam, because he's a total sleazeball who's always like hitting on Letitia, who's the new main character. And like, she isn't characterized the best all the time, because sometimes her thing is just that she's the girl one. But I do like her. I like her design. She's not as alien-ish as ToeJam and Earl are, which is another problem that sometimes happens with female characters. You think about like World of Warcraft or whatever, like an orc. The men are like these gnarly tusk dudes who are like beefy and stuff, and the female orc is a human woman but green, who also has a tiny waist, by the way, and big boobs. So Letitia's not quite that bad. But yeah, back on the point, ToeJam, I really liked him in the second game. But in this game, like, in attempting to give him some character, they've given him a really unlikable character and personality. And like, Letitia has a really good relationship with Earl, where they're just like mates. But ToeJam's relationship with Letitia is just him hitting on her all the time, and it's extremely unpleasant. So I'll see what they do with that in Back in the Groove, how they handle that kind of stuff. It remains to be seen. Gibbon says... Hold on, I need to adjust this chat window. Gibbon says, well, it's a roguelike, so you're expected to play the game many times from the beginning, since it's random. So every playthrough will be different. You're not expected or even necessarily supposed to see everything the game has to offer in a single go-through. Is that still the case with 3 though? That I know there's randomness in the present, or is there? Are the presents randomized? Are the layouts randomized? I don't think so. It sometimes feels like chunks of them are being reused, but are the layouts? Huh. You're making me now rethink what I've been observing as I played through Mission to Earth. Yeah, I didn't think it was as much of a roguelike as like the first game. Does the second game have randomization? It's interesting. All 3 of them have like these high levels of interaction and like exploration and stuff, but they all approach it very differently, because the first one's this top-down, like very much NetHack style floor-based thing. The second one's a side-scroller. The third one is this kind of early 3D platformer type thing. Although, I don't know, it's not much of a platformer. I guess it's more of an action, I don't know, whatever. Genres are weird. But yeah, like, what you're saying is making me rethink the game. They are randomly generated. Oh wow, that's fascinating. So they had the same layout when I redid it, when I revisited some of them. But what you're telling me is that a new playthrough will give you new level layouts, and that is fascinating. I wonder if they could have done more with the randomization stuff for a single playthrough, because I'm unlikely to replay the game. Both because, like, I don't know if I would get much out of that bill, so I rarely replay games anyway, so... but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't mean that everyone has a unique experience, which is interesting. This wall of bricks. There we go. That was good. Yeah, so I've definitely sort of cottoned on to not really getting everything possible out of the game. Like, after the first few levels, the levels start getting huge with tons of hidden stuff in them. And I stopped trying to get everything. Get all the keys, get all the notes, get all the earthlings, get all the presents, get all the hidden things. There's so much to do and interact with, but a lot of it you don't have to do to just get through the game. But at a certain point you want to try and get more presents because of things like, you know, the Icarus Wings or Funk V Blast are really useful and powerful just to have. Being able to activate Funk Rhythm whenever you want is great, especially as Letitia, because that's one of her strengths. Time might be a factor on this level. So Gibbon also said that in Panic on Funkotron does not have randomly generated levels, no. But I don't know if item locations and such are random or not. Okay, I think I could speak to that, because when I played Panic on Funkotron, I used save states sometimes, and when I would like pick up a few presents and then have to load a state for whatever reason and then go get some stuff again, I would get different things out of the presents sometimes. So I think some of them are probably defined, like the ones that are larger rewards. Sometimes you get a Funk Vac out of a particularly well-hidden present, and that's probably set up like that. Or maybe there's tiers of presents or something. But I definitely encountered presents giving me... the same presents giving me different things. So yeah, there is that random element. Oh, need this timer up. Wait, that wasn't a timer up? What was that then? The yellow pickup, right? Well, this is going to be tough. Oh, okay, so the yellow pickup just freezes the timer for a bit. It doesn't give you extra time. Good to know. Yes, get me through. Hello? Come on. There we go. Woof. This is going to be tight. 30 seconds. Don't drop the balls. Okay. Multi-ball. Well, I won't have a problem dropping them if one of them's going side to side. Oh, let's come out of that now. Let's have one higher up and then my safety one down below. Oh boy. Many more balls. Don't drop them. I never learned to juggle. But I imagine it's something like this. Ooh. I'm just watching the timer like, is this timed? Okay, we did it. Whew. Got 12 seconds left. Wow, got some 1-ups there, nice. Please. Please go this way faster. Oh no, how much more is there? Frigging faces. This level's rough. That's the end right there. What happened? That took way too long. Maybe some slowdown from all the fireballs on screen. Right at the end. Well. Fireball. Lucky I made that save state. Boink. 12 seconds. Let's do it. Yes. No! Oh, the fireballs. It's just so random, this part. So chaotic. Oh my god. Given says, as for Toe Jammer 1 and 3, the randomization is determined by... Ugh! Sorry, hold on. I think I could do this. Where'd it go? Did it eat it? Really? Come on. Yes! Thank goodness. Wait. The timer was still ticking down as it was entering the thermal exhaust port, but I think I'm okay. I got the jingle. So the randomization is determined by a seed that is set at the beginning of every new file. So yeah, if you need to revisit a level during the same save file, it's going to be the same as your initial visit, but that same level on a new file will be completely different. That's fascinating. I had no idea. Yeah, the game... Yeah, I wasn't giving it enough credit, I guess. That's interesting. But yeah, I'll be finished with it soon, which means I can then move on to Back in the Groove. Let's see what I get out of that. I like these things. They look like treasure chests almost, but they're sort of mimics. They turn into gargoyles. Alright, we have a choice of path. Let's just go this way. Try not to get hit by that face. No! Nice rain effect. No! Arrgh. I hate this stupid face. Seems like there's a lot of like slowdown issues in this game. When it grabs the ball, suddenly everything speeds up, but as soon as it has to simulate the ball again, it kind of becomes more manageable. I wouldn't want to play with a game that fast all the time, for sure. So yeah, interesting. Ugh. Please, please. Let's grab the yellow. Hold on. Oh. Okay, so my upper paddle also cannot interact with power-ups when it's in this state. Which means I was stuck with whatever the game gave me for that variable power-up, which was blue, and I don't know what blue does. But this time I'll try to get a timer, because that was a real problem in the last stage. There. Nope. Sorry. Did I get it? Yeah. Okay, that was the timer. Good. The dragon probably also helpful, but... yeah, either way. And I don't want to lose the ball just... I have a lot of 1-ups, but just for timing reasons. It's quicker for me if I don't have that little pause between balls. Come on, dragon buddy. Get up there. No! Buddy, come on. Yes. Looks like the dragon's immune to the faces, but I just ran out there. Oh my god. This is unconscionable. Excuse me? Alright. So, dragon's immune, right? So, let's do something with that. Let's get the dragon up here. No! Okay, dragon's not immune. Never mind. You know what? You're right, Gibbon. How the heck are you supposed to get through this screen? If I knew, I would be writing a guide for this game. I guess that's how you do it, is you try and get it over to the left face and then it'll spit it out to the left. Well, thank God it didn't take so long that time. Oh yeah, the blue power-up looks like it expands your paddles. Okay. Not for very long though. Oof, okay. We're doing well. Maybe. What's the time? I really wanted to get to the DS game. I'm gonna do it. This might be a longer stream. I did start late, but yeah. I've been taking longer with this than I expected. It's a hard game, actually, but fun. Again, just the concept I love. I do like Brick Breaker games, and then making into this complex fantasy-themed adventure. That's really cool. There's nothing else quite like it, I think. Although I will again mention Arkanoid vs. Space Invaders. The excellent, I was going to say Taito, but no, Square Enix acquired Taito's properties, and then... so it's a Square Enix game, I guess. Just... I wouldn't recommend playing the version in the weird collection, because... it's best on a touchscreen, and also... excuse me? Those friggin' tongues. Also, like, it only came on a certain edition of the collection. I don't know, it was weird. Those companies are doing wacky things with their game collections. Because I think there's some Namco ones that are similar, or... I don't remember. Anyway. I'm talking about having physical collections of games that have different... sorry, okay. So you have a collection of retro games that a company puts out, but if you buy the special limited edition that's on a physical thingy, then it has extra games on it. I think that's a really bad move, personally. I believe the Wonder Boy collection was actually like this. You buy the standard one and it has the like basic arcade versions of the main titles up to a certain point, but then there was a limited physical one that had also all the ports on it. Alright, so in this game, Gamma is not a spider with a cannon on its back. It's a sort of guy in armor with no legs and a mouth inside his body somewhere. Maybe it is kind of spiderish, and that's the thorax, which has a mouth in it for some reason, but also there's a disembodied heart. Yeah, this is much more surreal and grotesque. Interesting. Better than that spider, that's for sure. And I have a little bit more control in this fight as well, maybe, potentially. A bit more time too, perhaps. Yep, that's what I wanted. Ah, it fell out already. If I can try and keep it in there, that'll be nice. But it looks like Gamma has the ability to generate power orbs much like my own. Scary. Which just makes me wonder, what is the origin of this power orb anyway in the first place? If the baddie can make identical ones, then what gives? Also, I like the kind of organic background here. It's very Gradius kind of thing. Oh! Come on, let me in. Let me into your heart. When you're ready to start, there's room in your heart. For love, love, love. That's a song that was cut from the Muppet Christmas Carol, but you can still hear it on the soundtrack CD. It's supposed to be Bunsen and Honeydew's song. Sam the Eagle also had a song called Chairman of the Board, which is not as good. I think it's pretty boring. They would have played that in the flashback when Scrooge is at school. Which is Sam the Eagle's only scene, apart from his later appearance at the nursing home, of course. Yes, you will love business. It is the American way. Sam? It is the British way. Good. Muppet Christmas Carol is so good. I'm going to plug this thing right now. You know toughpigs.com, the Muppet fan site? It's really good, and they have a couple podcasts. One of them is called Moving Right Along, where two charming and charismatic hosts with frequent guests. It's one of the movie minute podcasts, but on their version they do it 2 minutes at a time, so they're discussing all the Muppet films, and they've just started on Muppet Christmas Carol, and I recommend it. Each weekly episode covers 2 minutes of the film. Come on, let's go. The heart's turned pink. Oh, there we go. Oof. Now there might be a little bit extra after this, because there usually is. The heart fell into the abyss. This kind of looks like there's going to be more to do. Okay. Can we just... Yep, okay, cool. There's only a little bit. Gamma is defeated for the second time, and the land of nameless land is now safe. Once again. Hopefully our prince and princess will be restored to their usual form. Oh, spooky. Hooray! You know, I thought the prince and princess were actually siblings, but there were a lot of love hearts in the ending of the last game. And the way they're kind of posed right now, they're probably married. And this one actually has a staff roll. Although it's all code names, this was the style at the time. Again, I wasn't sure of the company behind this one. Let's see what Sega Retro has to say while we watch these code names go past. Devilish. Hidden content. Oh, there's a code you can do at the title screen for Game Gear 1. 99 balls and stage skip. Pretty good. Hopefully there's information about the sequel. Yeah, here it is. Bad Omen, aka Devilish, The Next Possession. So according to Sega Retro, published by Hot B in Japan, who was the European publisher for the first game. Developed by AI System Tokyo. Who are they? They made a Rainbow Islands game, Darius game. The game appears to not have been made with Genki's involvement. This is unconfirmed. So yeah, some mysteries in this one. But that's nice. Having finished now, first 2 games in the series, we can move on to the third one, Devilish. I think the European title is just Devilish. The North American title is like Classic Action Devilish. The Japanese title is Devilish Ball Bounder, which I think is maybe the best of the lot. Not saying much. Okay. So this is a DS game. Now, if you've been watching my streams this year, Starfish is a name that I got some great fondness for. They created Roller Angels, which was a big part of my DSiWare showcases earlier on. So, yeah, Roller Angels was a really cool side-scroller with rollerblading and stuff. It was fun, it was cute. So another one that they did was this. They revived the Devilish thing, the Devilish IP in 2005 for the DS. I just wanted to show you real quick something that cool you can do in the DS emulator in OpenEMU is change the separation and even display things in different ways depending on what game it is you're playing. So that's really helpful to have those features. But as you'll see, some DS games account for the physical gap on the device and some of them don't. This one actually doesn't, so it's a completely contiguous playing field. So you can just say no separation on the screens and you're good to go. Looks like we're not getting any attract modes here, so we'll just get into it. I hope I don't regret this, but I'm going to pick easy. My only worry is that easy like locks you out of some game content. There's no way to know that in advance. Alright, one peaceful day, the castle was suddenly shrouded in roaring flames. It was the call of Satan, who rose from hell. Hold on, that went way too quick. So Gamma is not a factor in this one. Rose from hell to wreak havoc on the peaceful kingdom, which, again, still has no name, apparently. Princess Sheila. Oh god, no! We've got a cute fairy character. King Vern. Sheila! Cecilia! Vern. Vern is like the name of the uncle in like an American sitcom. No, please, Cecilia. Satan's army powered through the king's army and slaughtered everything in the path, including Cecilia, the kind-hearted queen of the kingdom. King Vern had no choice but to escape from the castle with Princess Sheila. That's quite graphic, actually, with all the gore. Okay. That's in French up there. Princess Sheila. Oh. Yeah, for some reason the map is written in French. Behind the escaping twosome were the burning remains of this once peaceful and mighty kingdom. There was only one thing Sheila could do. Wait, they're spelling it differently now. Release the holy power and use the dragon's power to defeat Satan. They spelled Sheila 2 different ways in that intro. Okay, so as you can see on the like box art, I guess that's Sheila. She looks a lot younger on the artwork than she does in the game. But I guess the ball is that kind of demon fairy who's using a wind orb technique. But there wasn't really an explanation. Is Sheila turned to stone into a paddle? Very unclear, but let's get on with it and we'll see how the game works. This game does not have any touchscreen control support, which is fine. But yeah, as you can see, right in the middle there is where the 2 screens would have separated, but the ball passed smoothly directly between them. This is what I'm talking about. This particular game does not account for the separation there between the screens, which is fine. Something like Yoshi's Island DS, I think, does account for it, but so it's like there's a physical space there that the character travels between. Yeah, so it's the same setup. We can move the top one around, but you can move the top one all the way over both screens, and they extend the playfield over both of the DS's 2 screens, which is nice. I like that as a concept, making use of that extra space to just make it a really big vertical area. That's cool. That works fine. And let's see, what can we do with our buttons? Pressing Y did something. It made my bar go down, and I don't know what that did, but oh, okay, I can change the position of the UI. Let's just put it at the bottom below our bottom paddle. I think that probably works best in this screen setup. But you can also press L and R to angle the paddle freely. This is the new innovation of this version. So it can still sort of pass through the bottom, but you have this arbitrary command of the paddle's position, which I think works a lot better. Like A and C did turn it from left to right, but I think it's even better here with the L and R buttons to just move it around freely. L, 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 R, R, R. So that's cool. So I think that works very well. I don't know what all the power-ups do. Let me see. Oh yes, okay. So pressing Y when you have one of those power-ups in your reserve activates it, but I don't know the actual effect of all of them yet. So I guess I'll try and keep an eye on that. I don't have a manual scan for this, not that I look too hard. Again, I was a bit pressed for time. But, oh, that's good. Okay, if the only thing that the difficulty changes is the bonus points at the end, in terms of like limiting you in any way, then that'll be fine. That's good. Okay. And as Gibbon says, yeah, she says, ooh, I like the look of this one. And yeah, I like it as well. It's very clean. It's kind of got that budget feel, which this game probably was a budget one. But I like the perspective on the houses on the sides. That's fun. And yeah, it's just that almost pre-rendered look on those enemy sprites is an interesting touch. So that effect coming out of the volcano is a bit like the cannons in the Mega Drive game. That's nice. And I'm glad that we're not just rehashing again, because the Mega Drive one was almost kind of an enhanced port of the Game Gear one. This one's an entirely new experience. They've rethought mechanics, new kind of world setting almost, different plot of course. Although, again, I'm a bit unclear on exactly what's happening here. Like, yes, King Vern got away with Princess Sheila, but why are we knocking a ball around suddenly? That's not part of the stated events at all. But that's okay, it's fine. there's some implication on what's happening from the title screen. Or from the cover art, rather. But again, I don't think I was ever introduced to that fairy character. The little demon girl. Like, who is that? Why is she helping us? If the bad guys are demons, are they? Yeah, Satan was the enemy in this game. And this character who I guess is helping us looks like a little demonic creature. Maybe she defected from the demonic army, but why didn't they explain that? Anyway, this spider looks cool. It's that pre-rendered look I was talking about. It's funny, like, the level graphics are, you know, quite flat and, you know, hand-drawn and stuff. And then having the enemies almost in a different style is interesting. Okay. World 2, the Crystal Passage. Or oh, I better read this. Satan and his minions descend on neighboring kingdom of Christia. Sheila and the king go to rescue the people. Satan has risen from the ashes, ... Vern, I am so happy you came. Oh, this is their king who's talking to our king. Okay. This is a little confusing. The localization here is a bit odd. Actually, come to think of it, what version of the game am I playing? I'm not sure, actually. Yeah, I wonder if there's different localizations or anything. But I don't know. The budget localization fits with the budget kind of look at the game. Not to be too rude. Okay. Yeah, we'll miss some treasures. That's fine. Oops. Ooh. I don't have rewinds on my DS emulator. Do I? Hold on a second. DS. I don't think I did when I tried before. Okay, I have speed up but no rewind. That's okay. Can work with that. Just have to make more save states. And I completely forgot to use power-ups previously. Some of them are automatic like those ones. I got a paddle extension just now. So let's see what this one does. Boom! Ooh, invisible ball. That helps a lot to get through that part quick. That's good. It's probably a good place to save state, actually. Since we're heading to the left, we can just angle it slightly. Okay. Not, maybe not quite. Yeah, okay. Whoa, it turned into a rocket. What the heck? Is this fantasy themed or not? Oh well, it's cool. It's silly. I feel like the physics in this one are a bit more predictable than the previous games, where you'd get a lot of wild bounces. That was quick, that's cool. Yeah, I don't mind a bit more predictability. Rocket time, go. Rocket is functionally very similar to Invisible Ball, but that's okay. So many pickups, what do they do? Who knows? Oh, you probably need some of that resource to actually use the power-ups. So let's just check that. Nope, that didn't do anything. I don't know what B and A do either. Okay. Okay. Settle down. Oh no. Oh. I had a lot of power-ups overriding each other then. If I'm going to use save states, I need to remember to activate them more often before I load them. Oof, okay. I'm getting my 4th COVID vaccine dose tomorrow. The Moderna brand. And last time I had that, I was out for 2 days, so I'm gonna have a quiet weekend, I think. But I kind of have to rush to the chemist after work, which is my 2nd week at my new job, which is going well, by the way. Having a good time at my new job. Oops. So is that random direction? So what games have you been playing lately, Gibbon? I talked about Toe Jam and all 3. That's basically what I've been doing. Oh, you know what else I've been playing? Banana Kong 2 on mobile. The sequel to the Donkey Kong Country knockoff auto-running mobile game, which is quite good. It's just a fun little time waster. But I would recommend it. It's made by the company that did the spin-off Banana Kong Blast, which was the barrel blasting simulator one. But yeah, it's cool. The thing about Banana Kong 2, it's extremely similar to Banana Kong 1 in its gameplay mechanics and content, which I think is odd. It's just in a new engine that's 3D, that's the difference. But I guess, you know, it's new and whatever. Anyway, it's cool. I included Banana Kong on my big Donkey Kong fan art collage thing, just because it's so clearly a riff on Donkey Kong Country. It's essentially an unofficial Donkey Kong Country game. Okay, what is this now? A succubus character, it seems. Gibbon says she's been playing Live Alive. Awesome. So the new one, the remake, I assume. Remaster or whatever they're calling it, I don't know. The 2D HD thing. Yeah, pretty cool. That's nice. So I think you've played the original, so like, how would you, what would you say about what they've done with the new version and changes they've made or anything? Is it an upgrade? Stock scream sound effect, I like that. It is a remake. Okay, okay. Yeah. Good. Not like Chrono Cross. Whoop. Scream. Gibbon says she's also been playing a lot of Fall Guys and kind of waiting for Xenoblade to come out in a few days. Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I know it's imminent. But I know you're very much looking forward to it. Hope you enjoy it when it comes out. No man who has ventured into this cursed valley has ever returned. Are you prepared for that? Yes, Father, I'm not afraid. Alright, we kind of have to infer the plot here. I assume, like previous games, Vern is the bottom paddle and Sheila is the top paddle. And the fairy, the demon turncoat lady is helping them out because she disapproves of Satan's methods. And using her magic, she's made herself into a ball, but she also transformed Vern and Sheila, such weird names for the royal family of this fantasy kingdom, into stone paddles. But this time it's like something that they took on themselves by choice in order to fight back against Satan's minions. Yeah. Because it's proven to be a highly effective tactic in the past, obviously, in the previous Devilish games. So they're like, yes, as the heroes of old have done, we are also going to take on the form of stone paddles to fight this menace. And I guess the origin of the ball was demonic turncoats, because Gamma had the same power of creating balls at the end of Bad Omen. So it's something that can only be done by demonic power, but in this case, good demonic power, because if there are evil super beings, does that mean that there are good evil ones? Asked the clumsy localization of Lufia 2 posited. In other words, there's good demons all the time. They can use demon powers for good. That's what's happening here, I assume. Sinistrals, yeah, sure. It's gods. They're just gods. Like, Sinistrals is a name they made up to get past the censors. It's a cool name, to be sure. But don't pretend they're just super beings, whatever that is. Anyway. Yeah, so that's the story. We need a name for the demon fairy, so I'm gonna call her Beth. Why not? Bethelzebub. Yeah, that's her name. And she was like, no, this is wrong. I will help you, as I did in the past. So it's the same one from the other game, sure. Unseen until now. But, you know, there are interstitial cutscenes. Maybe they're going to reveal more about the plot and the setting as we continue, and I really should be using my power-ups more. My active ones. See, that's a baddie one. It turns your ball slowy. So Gibbon's thoughts on the Live Alive remake. I'd say it's a straight upgrade, yeah. They're pretty faithful to the original scenario. No new stuff in that respect as far as I know. But the newer graphics, voice acting, localization, and presentation are all stellar. That's nice. That's cool. The original game was never localized at all, so we only had fan translations, I believe. So yeah, having a high quality official product, that's nice. To have that in English for the first time. And yeah, I do like what they've done with the graphics and stuff. Looks very impressive. Shame that there's nothing new about the content. Like when they did a port of Chrono Trigger to DS, they added new stuff. And the GBA ports of Final Fantasy games, they always had new stuff that is now not included in the Pixel remasters, by the way. And a new port will never be definitive if it doesn't include the extra stuff that was in previous ports. But hey, this is Live Alive's only second chance, and first chance outside of Japan, I believe. So yeah, it's cool that they really went all out with it. What did that even do? That power up, I have no idea. I like these shorter stages though, that's nice. Oh, 2 spiders, okay. I was just about to say that the actual con is blending together a little bit, having a reuse of a boss already. Okay, that's fine. What did that do? I have no idea. Gibbon's feeling is that no new content is fine. The story is pretty complete as is, so anything new would be fabricated from whole cloth at this point, since unlike Chrono Trigger there's no sequel to tie into with this remake. That's a good point. But since it's also a time-traveling adventure, what if they had added stuff that did tie it into Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross? What would you think about that? Huh? I think that would be pretty interesting. I'm feeling an evil aura, stronger than what I felt in the valley. Just what is this place? I have heard that there is a sealed temple just ahead. Perhaps Ellipsis. That's a good point. It could be that there is new stuff in there that Gibbon hasn't got to yet. We don't know. But yeah, it's possible. I gotta tell you, I was pretty disappointed with the Chrono Cross remaster. I'm not really a fan of AI upscaling graphics because you often lose detail, and that seems to be the case for Chrono Cross. They did add a couple of cool new features like turning battles off, which kind of speaks to some of the design choices in the original game. I really like Chrono Cross, by the way, so just factor that into my criticisms. But yeah, the newly sort of updated graphics for character models, they've tweaked them a bit, so they're not just upscaled, which is nice. And they've included the original models as an option. You can toggle them, so that's good. It's a good way to deflect criticism of changes if they're optional. That kind of change, anyway. But you know what they should have done with the Chrono Cross remaster? Included port tying it into another Eden. It's a successor game. That's a completely non-serious suggestion. Oh yeah, I should be angling more. That's of course smart. What the? Wait, who's that? It's like an evil doll or something. Playing a little tune. Oops. Oh, start from the start? Really? Okay. Haven't needed to save state much. Mid-level in this game. It's more forgiving than the previous games, which is good. Should have looked for a manual for this. There's a lot that I don't understand. These power-ups, the ball color change, I don't know what that means. My little bars down there at the bottom, what do they do? Who knows? Start menu does not have like... Oh, item tutorial. Okay, good. Missile, ghost, we've seen those. Lightning, electric shocks to all monsters on screen. I haven't done that yet. A wall will appear at the bottom of the screen with for a limited time following for safety. Okay. Speed reset resets the ball speed to its initial speed. So that's the one that I activated and didn't know what it did. Power recovery fully regenerates the ball's power. So the ball has a health bar. Increases the ball's strength by 1 level. Fully regenerates the ball's power and increases its strength by 4 levels. Speed up, high speed, slow down, unspell, short, long, extend, hurry. 1 up. Elixir. Weaken energy drain. So ball strength maybe increases its power to break through bricks or to destroy monsters. Not that I've had much issue with it so far. Alright, good to know. Love that. Thank you for answering my questions, game. Right there on the pause screen. So, Gibbon's comment about Chrono Cross is, I appreciate being able to play it on modern consoles and also on the Go via Switch without the need to hook up previous gen systems and possibly find where I put a memory card. That's a good point. And for me, the convenience outweighs any niggles with the... And for me, the convenience outweighs any niggles with the graphics upscaling, she says. Fair enough. I just think that as a product, it's not the best it could be, and I wish that they had done some things differently with it. But it's, yeah, I can't argue with the convenience factor and that kind of thing. So, yeah. Oh no! Sorry. Yeah, wishing they'd done more is fair. Yep. I thought so, because I said it. Thank you for acknowledging it. But hey, you gotta admit, it's a bit of a cult classic, and sales-wise, it's hard to expect them to do too much. Not that I know how well the remaster did. Of course, one neat thing that the remaster has is a port and new localization for the first time of the Satellaview visual novel Radical Dreamers, which formed the initial basis for the plot of Chrono Cross. So that's a great extra to include. Yes, my power has improved and it's now yellow. And I know what that is now. Sort of. Well, I know that the ball has power. What it does, I would guess damage on monsters and stuff. Whoa! That was a really fast shortcut. Maybe should have slowed down that animation a bit. Oops. I think I picked up the skull icon, which resets ball effects. By the way, it appears that the S button on my keyboard is set up to also press X, which is why whenever I save state, it cycles the UI HUD thing, which is toggled with X. Okay. Save again. Yeah. It was cool to get Radical Dreamers in there as well. Again, previously we had a fan translation, which was quite good, which I'd played before. But yeah, this is the first official translation of it. Oop, mistimed that. It's trying to be tricky with it. Oh. Hold on. There we go. Oh, it was just a treasure room. Hold on a second. Get out of there. Okay, here we go. Oh no, it's back! I'm gonna run out of time. At this rate. Okay, there we go. Now, where are we going? Over here, I expect. That whole skeleton thing was a side path. But yeah, here's something actually new in this version, is these large scrollable rooms. Whereas the playing field was only as big as the screen in the previous game. It scrolled a bit as you progressed, but in this one it's like much larger areas than what even the screen is displaying that you're in. The music's a bit repetitive though in this game. No. Go, missile. Fantasy missile. Ah! I haven't used the like vertical alignment on the paddle yet much. Sorry. Glad I made that save state. It's very clever of me, wasn't it? Some odd bounces in this game. Okay. No! Rough. Oh, there's the exit. Okay. No! No! Die, devil. Die, devil. If you ever played Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, you'll hear that a lot because the tutorial boss says it a lot. And then you refight him later in the game. Die, devil. And then the sound of an attack that you're able to parry has a particular sound. Okay, so I need to angle it in such a way that I get a bounce straight up, which means like this. Oh, messed it up. Okay, I think maybe what I want to do is this kind of thing. So it doesn't go too far over there, and I can rebound it into this paddle and then, woo! Oh, almost. Okay, this is going okay. I've got about 37 seconds to get to the exit. Yes! Felt good. Alright. Continue. So yeah, this is interesting, an interesting take on the concept. They've expanded a lot. That's cool. But of all of Starfish's output, I'd have to say I prefer Roller Angels. I think that was an awesome game. Unparalleled almost. Okay. The only thing remotely comparable to Roller Angels is the feature phone based typing tutor. What was it called? The Jet Set Radio spin-off for Japanese mobile phones. I think it was called Typing Jet. The gameplay was really nothing like it, but it was an auto runner with rollerblades. So, you know. Anyway. soon as I'm finished with Toe Jam and Earl back in the groove, which I'm playing just after I'm done with 3, then I'm going to be finally returning to Lord of the Rings games, which means I'm playing Third Age, the Final Fantasy X clone on Xbox, and PS2 and GameCube probably. Maybe not GameCube, I don't know. And then I'm playing Lord of the Rings Online. Oh yeah, I wonder if I should stream some of that. I don't know. I'll think about it. And then War in the North, and then Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. Then I'll be done. My plan after playing Shadow of War is to... because essentially, like, the Shadow games kind of riff on existing gameplay mechanics that were originated by... well, it's kind of got some of the traversal mechanics of Assassin's Creed and some combat mechanics from, like, the Batman Arkham games. This is what I've heard about the Shadow games. So that's what I'm going to do. I haven't played any Assassin's Creed games or any Arkham games, so I'm going to play all of the Altair Assassin's Creed games and Prince of Persia before that, because I haven't played that either. And Assassin's Creed is just a spin-off of Prince of Persia. And then I'm going to play Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Origins Blackgate. Because Origins at night would be taking it too far. And I already have Blackgate because I bought it real cheap for 3DS on a clearance sale or whatever. It's a Metroidvania. 2D. Oh, come on. Okay. It's like highly geometric bounce physics can be troublesome sometimes. Gibbon says, I think everyone knows my Assassin's Creed hot takes by now. Yeah, when I get to it, I'm going to have to once again ask you what order I need to play them in, because there's like the DS one, the PSP one. There's some Altair sections in the third Ezio game, and I'm not otherwise interested in playing any Ezio games. And then, what else is there? Oh, the mobile phone version of Assassin's Creed 1, which is quite a different thing. Oh my god. DS first? Should I actually play DS first? So chronologically it's first, but should I, like, surely mechanically it would make more sense to start with the first one. Yeah, I'll have to decide whether I want to do strict chronology or not. But otherwise it's PSP after the first one and then Revelations. Yeah, it is up to me. It is up to me. I have that power. Should I read the novels too? The other tricky thing I've been thinking about is what order to play the Prince of Persia games. Should I play the 2008 game before Forgotten Sands, or play Forgotten Sands where it should be in the story, which is actually between, I think, 2 and 3, in terms of the reboot Prince of Persia? Or like, so it's like release order or continuity order. And chronology. There's a lot to consider, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm probably just going to play release order. I think it might be simplest that way. At least for Prince of Persia. I might change it up for Assassin's Creed. But yeah, the thing is, like, a lot of these games I'm talking about are quite long games, especially Assassin's Creed and the Batman games. They're all open world things, so I might be on this for a while. And I don't have much in mind to tie in to those things in terms of my streams, so that kind of leaves me a bit open to stream all sorts of wacky things. So I might like go through my big backlog of planned streams because there's a lot to do there. Oh, I shouldn't have just wasted that lightning when there were no enemies on screen. Wasn't thinking. Gibbon says, I think I'll probably pick up Assassin's Creed Origins at some point, but for now I'm still kind of on the series. Yeah, it certainly has gone some places. Becoming an annualized series, I think, was probably not good for it in the long run, because it resulted in a lot of forgettable entries. So Origins would be the Egypt one, and then that was followed up by Odyssey, which was the ancient Greek one, I think. I think I have to go up here. That was like a side path that I backtracked down just now. The whole budget feel is coming through to me again, having come this far with relatively little like new content and aesthetics. But that's okay. There's a couple of new things in each world. Okay, we're nearly there. Oh, hey, Wadito's here. Wadito von Eisanger. Good to see you. Is this a remake? This is not a remake of the Game Gear and Mega Drive Devilish games. It's a new entry. It uses many of the same mechanics, but it's all new content, kind of a new setting, a new plot. I haven't explained the plot too well, I don't think, but it's kind of like a budget DS game that kind of just picks up an old IP and kind of riffs on it. So you have a lot more control over the secondary paddle here with free rotation of it. The ball physics feel quite different. There's more enemies, and they're probably more interesting to look at, I think. But yeah, if you're familiar with the old Devilish games, this is a kind of an interesting take on the series. But all of them, I've played all three of them today, and I've been really captivated by how they use the brick breaker mechanics but turn it into an adventure, and the different entries have had slightly different approaches to that challenge. Yeah, so in the original ones, the paddles were a prince and princess who had been transformed by the baddie into stone, but then it turned out that stone was the perfect thing to hit the magical orb that fell out of the sky in order to defeat him. In this one, they don't really say what the paddles are, but the implication, I guess, leaning on the context from the previous games, is that King Vern and Princess Sheila, who are on the run from the forces of Satan, not Gamma in this game, although that might be a localization thing, I assume that they are the paddles in this case, and you can see a little like demon fairy girl in some of the cutscenes and on the box art, who is implied to be the ball by the art on the box again. But that part hasn't come up in the plot either. All we've learned is that they were on the run, the queen was killed, they're now traveling to different kingdoms trying to get help against Satan, and Satan is everywhere apparently. So we're not doing too well, but we're just going to different places on the map. That's about it, yeah. Not a huge plot focus, but there are more explicit cutscenes in this one between levels. Yeah, what else can I say about it? But yeah, not the prince and princess, but the king and the princess, presumably. What the heck? Oh my god. When did I save? It was right back at the start of this level, so I've just done nothing, net negative, or net neutral. By the way, Gibbons said before... She said that I've heard that starting with Origins, the series got quite good again. With, yeah, Odyssey and Valhalla. Okay, I didn't know... I don't even remember that Valhalla existed. But the series is just so different and far removed from its roots. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's like the Ubisoft open world thing has become a bit of a meme, that all Ubisoft open world games are sort of the same thing, but Assassin's Creed kind of started that, so they've all kind of fed back into it now. All the additions and variations that they've done with it are now part of that series. Now, I don't really know where I should be going, because especially in this level it's quite open. But this looks promising. Okay, I picked the right path that time, that was good. Okay, let's use this missile when it would be effective. Please. I think I know why they give you so much time in this level. It's huge. Smash! Oh. Well, it wasn't much good. Gibbons throwing some shade. She says, pretty sure you have more control of the stone than this in curling. Yeah, and in the previous games I could manually control the speed, which would be much like the broom in curling. Or is it not called a broom? Anyway. Okay, save state here before I forget. That'd be nice. Yeah. Like, I feel like the level of ball physics simulation here is like too precise. So the angles, like DVD screensaver angles, it's just super geometric and like inorganic. I'm not sure how to describe it exactly, but yeah. Like the original games had more variants and odd bounces and stuff. Okay. Sorry, madam. I'll just get out of your way. Okay. Okay, and then... Nope. Oh, I messed up. That was promising. Okay, got a lucky bounce. Okay, it is called a broom. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Sometimes there's terminology in sports. Oh, what happened? So obviously there's still like menu control here. I'm just gonna load the state, which means I have to do this bit again. But yeah, it kind of froze up. That might have to be the end of the stream if I can't get past that bit. That's really unfortunate because I wanted to see what else the game would throw at me in terms of plot and cutscenes, what the final boss might be. Oh well. I did not expect this, because it plays so well, generally. To have it then... Oh, okay. Well, fingers crossed. It did it again. I'm hearing screams now. So yeah, I can pause and it'll change to the pause menu. And then the first option was retry. Actually, what I'll do... So if you do this, retry... Do you wish to start? So then you press left and go yes. That might help if I try that, but it will require getting back to that point again. I'll do another save state closer to it. And then I can try fiddling with some menu things during that, but oh, that sucks. Yeah, bummer, says Wadito. Gibbon says, might have to buy a legit copy, oh no. Yeah, maybe. Or I could try it on my flash card, but that would help for the stream. I wanted to stream the thing and show it off. That was the point. Ah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, that is a shame. Alright, so I'm closer here, I'll save state here. Oh, perfect. Went straight in. Okay, so yep, it's doing it again. Start. A. Wait a second for it to load, and then press left. A. And it's still black. It loaded in with graphics, and then it went black. Why is that? Why would it do that? Is there a save option or anything? Let's say I return. Okay, that just brings you back. So I've got here, let's assume it like auto-saves or something. Reset. See what happens if I try to load or anything. It's censored, says Wadito. Maybe this is the anti-piracy feature. Open your booklets and enter the code on the third page. Gibbon says before about brooming, about curling. By the by, experience actual broom shop talk from curling stuff makes for yet another thing to criticize in the Harry Potter novels, as it doesn't hold a candle to the real thing. Yeah, the way that brooms are talked about in Quidditch, nothing like what happens in actual sport, especially when brooms are involved. Okay, so if I go continue from 4-4, what's this? Is this the level I just got through? Or is this the one I was on that froze? They all look the same, so it's hard to tell. But I guess I'll play this for a bit and see if I recognize anything. But we might have solved it just now. By loading from the menu, which would be nice. I won't save a state just in case. I have to return to that one. Try more fiddling. See that repeating floor texture? Yeah, I don't like that. It's a tiny texture that's been copy and pasted a bunch of times. Yeah, I wish I could... Hang on. This doesn't tell you what level you're on. It's got statistics. Score. I guess I could compare the scores, but that would require another reset and stuff. So I'll just keep playing for a bit. Yeah. So what have you been playing lately, Wadito? I saw you published a review on Castlevania 3. Did you like it? I haven't read that one yet, but yeah. You said that you nominated Dracula's Curse for the Top 47K Games podcast review, right? What made you decide to use your precious nomination on that particular game? If you didn't know, by the way, viewer, the 47K Games podcast is by Hardcore Gaming 101, where the objective is to rank every single game ever existed, in the order of audience submission, until they have a list of the top 47,858 games of all time, which would be all of them according to the number of games that exist on the Moby Games database at the time that the podcast was started. There's more now in the database. So essentially you as an audience member can get them to rank a game of your choice, but only if you give them a 5-star review, which is a bit sneaky. But yeah, entertaining show, fun to listen to. Don't take the rankings too seriously because it's all ridiculous and stupid. To the idea of like saying what's better, like Doom or Tetris or whatever. They're both quite high up on the list at the moment. I believe Tetris is number 1 and like NetHack is number 2, possibly. Anyway, Grant is my bro, says Wadito. Nice. That's interesting. Grant did not make an appearance in the Castlevania animated series, of course. Although Series 3 had sort of a version of him who was a love interest for Alucard and turned into a woman. Not turned into, but that version. Anyway, stuff. I think this is the same level that I just played. So I've done it again. Here we are. And we get the black screen up. Alright, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the game without vision. So the ball's moving. I heard it rebound. And I think I just lost a life. I hoped that might restore the visuals, but it did not. What else can I do? I don't really have any other options. If I try it in a different emulator, I'll have to restart the whole game from the start. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look up a long play again, because I must be near the end of the game by now. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Long play time, and that'll be the end of the stream. So, Devilish. DS, long play. Yeah, I spelled it weird, so what? Alright, I'll actually capture that window this time, because it's got a funny layout. Firefox. This one. And hopefully it works if I full screen it actually. So let's see how far we had to go. See, this looks all familiar. I think this is the screen that I maybe froze on, which means there's half an hour left in the game. Yeah, that looks right.
Starting off with the yellow ball, is it?
Oh, there's someone commentating on this too. Who is this? Sleuthman Plays. Okay, nice. So I might just skim through this a bit. Yeah, that's capturing right. Just trying to figure out if this is where I was up to. Yep, that's definitely the stairway that was at the end of that level. Which means this is just another normal level.
Are we going to get a fun level?
Worked perfectly fine for them for some reason. So then they got to 4-3.
This better be bloody recording.
Funny. I'm most interested in seeing the cutscenes and the bosses, so Just kind of skim through until we get to those points. This is really annoying that this game failed like that. That's about 2/3 of the way through. It's too bad. Oh, what the? They're getting some weird graphical issues here too. Whoa, what? It's totally messed up. Missing Noah's appeared. Oh gosh. Maybe this game just doesn't emulate well after a certain point. So this is clearly the demon boss who was the first boss of the first 2 games, right? Sort of. Judging by the shape of it, it just doesn't look quite right with the glitched graphics. What did it says this is exciting. And Gibbon. Oh no, Gibbon! None of her changes have been accepted at Moby Games. That sucks. Did they get rejected, or are they just taking a while? Because the approvals queue can be a bit slow sometimes, I've found. Yeah. All right, well, we can't see this boss properly, but it looks like we've got another cutscene coming up here. So what have we got? What the? Oh, so that's the crown moving on the map. The map's not displaying properly. Satan's castle. It's been rebuilt. I knew it. He has risen again. Father, let's hurry. We must defeat this evil being and restore peace to our kingdom. Okay, well, that's that cutscene. So now we're in like a purple castle. The graphics get restored at some point, apparently. Got new enemies that are like little gargoyle things. They look similar to previous enemies. Skip forward a bit. Okay. So yeah, it looks to be more of the same, but purple this time. That's okay. I was pretty done with the game at this point anyway. It's fine. So yeah, we might not get anything too new until... Whoa, that's pretty new. All right. So a little bit after this, we'll be seeing the potentially final boss. Looks like Gibbon's gotten 0 notices of any kind, so who knows? Oh, man. How long ago did you submit your edits? I'm sorry that you're having a bad experience with it. Whoa, that's so giant. That's pretty cool. Look at the size of this boss. It's amazing. More in line with the gamma of the second game, rather than the spider with cannons of the first game. Oh, he's got 4 arms, a demonic-looking head, and what's that giant orb? I guess this is another example of demonic enemy orbs, perhaps. What's going on? Who knows? Oh, you actually destroy arms. You can damage limbs individually, I think. Okay, cool. And then boom, boom, boom. Head come off at a certain point. Come on. Buffering. Drops a lot of demerit power-ups. That's interesting. So we're hitting the torso a lot. And then... Oh, is that like the spirit of the... Whoa! And then a... Okay, yeah. Head come off, face in orb. That's pretty cool. And then there's a long-ending cutscene, so we'll skip ahead to that. With Satan defeated, peace was once again restored. Within the rebuilding kingdom of King Vern speaks to his people. However many obstacles we may face, let us work together and help one another to overcome them. What is Sheila wearing? Good grief. Let us learn to live in harmony than in grief. Yes, good grief. Please continue to look after us from above, says Sheila, who is now changed into a more sensible dress. Mother, no matter how hard things get, we will never give up. And credits. Wadudo said, I think I prefer more Arkanoid gameplay like original. Yeah, the whole huge rooms that you scroll through, I think that was a bit much. Because there was potential to like backtrack from a bad bounce and lose progress temporarily, and then making your way back over is a bit tedious. So the more streamlined progression of the original 2 games, was a bit more maybe good. Sorry, didn't know how to finish that sentence. Preferable, let's say, because it's all a matter of subjective opinions. So that's the end. I'm curious about one more thing, which is, what was the name of the baddie in the Japanese version? Okay, hold on a second. Boru Bounda was the name of the game. So if I can find some like footage of the did I spell it right? Hold on, sorry. Classic action, Devilish. What did I say? Oh yeah, of course. I did the V instead of B, and they just simplified it to B, which is fine. I should have known. All right, let's see if we can get footage of that one. Oh, 2 videos. 3 minutes long, 18 minutes long. Okay, we're not gonna get much, but we might see the opening cutscene. Oh, it looks good on the real device. That's cool. I like the way that looks. Yeah. I agree. Gibbon's saying it's got very samey after you got into the castle dungeon levels. But Wadito says at least the ball physics is better. Well, I'd say not necessarily better. Also, it looks like they skipped the plot. What is this exactly? How did they go from there to gameplay? There was an edit. What the heck? What's this? Commercials. Is it in here? Might have to go to the description. This is bizarre. Oh my lord. Okay. Our quest continues. Yes, find me that. So it's like 1/3 of the way through. We're gonna see a commercial for it. Apparently. This is bizarre. Starfish, there it is. It's an ad for Mario 64 DS. Okay. I should go to like Starfish's website, which I found when looking at Roller Angels. That might have something in there. Oh, they make it sound so exciting. There's backgrounds there that I don't remember. Well, that was it. Alright, let's go to Starfish's website. Starfish, which was actually just on screen there. Starfish. Yeah, there it is. sfco.jp. DS Soft. So it should be here. Wow, they made a lot of DS games. I think this is a racing simulator. Otherwise, I'd be into it. Dolphins and all. There it is, right at the bottom. It's got a mini site. Oh, don't tell me this is Flash. Story. Yeah, I think it's trying to load Flash content underneath this template. Maybe the blurb says something. Probably not. Probably doesn't say anything about the plot. Operate the ball with the 2 bars above and below and push through the field while destroying everything such as monsters, doors, big trees, windows, and other obstacles. Windows? There's no way I can play Flash content on this computer. So I think that's it. I think we're stuck unless we can find something on the Japanese web that's not the official site. Maybe the Wikipedia page has a Japanese version. No, only an English one. UFO Interactive, by the way, was the publisher in North America, I believe. So is there like a description? Is not discontinued by a manufacturer, really? Yeah, well, how's the internet searching stream going? Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Because I didn't have the chat up, I wasn't looking directly at it. Thank you, Gibbon, so much. She's dropped a link, which I will follow from the chat window. She says that the enemy guy is described as that must be Mao or Demon Lord. Yeah, sorry. I was absorbed in my own searching, but thanks so much. So what's this? This is from KK Game. It's like gameplay of the game. Yeah, great. That's awesome. Thank you so much for finding that and showing it to me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was here. Anyway. All right. Yes, very intense. So, Princess Sheila says, "Yeah, Ban, or what's the word for king? I forget. Oh, did I not capture that? Oh, I'm not capturing this. What happened? Something happened. Oh, the full screen didn't show up at all? Sorry. What about all that stuff before? Yeah. Why didn't... What about when I was showing the game before, of the footage of the game, was that showing up? So it didn't show up just now, but was it showing up before? What happened? Oh, sorry. So stupid. Anyway, it doesn't matter because, yeah, this is just the intro in Japanese. It's the same stuff. And yeah, it doesn't have a name for the baddie, apparently. As Gibbon was telling me. Okay, it was fine earlier, but I went full screen. Alright. I think it was fine until I tried full screen, a different tab to what the OBS window expected. Anyway, so that'll be it for the stream today. There's Princess Sheila. Oof. Yeah, a bit of a mess at the end there. Sorry about that. But I enjoyed playing through the Devilish games and seeing what the series had for us is a bit of a ride. Queen bathes in her own blood. Yeah, rough. Yeah, I did enjoy seeing what they did when they went from the original older games to the DS. It was interesting. And yeah, overall, it's a novel take on the Breakout kind of concept. So I hope you've enjoyed exploring this Breakout stuff with me. That's the end of it for now. I'm not sure what I'm doing next. Maybe the hair stuff, but I might actually fill next week with something else to delay that a bit. Yeah, so thanks for joining me, especially Gibbon and Wadito in chat. It's been fun. Yeah, okay. Well, see ya. Stay safe. Have a good one. Love you.